Here is a country of great contrast.
Great civilization of antiquity.
A foreign country a step away.
All right, we're back. It's the Casa de Cavazos. Justin here in Chicago, Ada in Harlingen, Texas, Nathan in Weslaco, Texas, providing that Tejano connection to reality. What's up? Are you okay? You fell.
I just fell down on camera. Just my typical clumsiness.
What did you even fall on?
I don't know. I was going to sit down, like I lost my footing and I dropped my coffee and
Just broke a mug.
I broke a whole mug. These things just happen to me. Like I have a history of very embarrassing, clumsy events.
Has the soda story been told on the pod?
I don't think so, but that exactly came to mind.
Nathan was there for that too.
Yes, I was. The gentleman who got this drink spilled on him looked at me like he wanted to kill me.
Yeah.
So set the scene. So this was at the movies. What were you seeing?
I think we were watching Top Gun Maverick.
This wasn't even that long ago.
It was maybe like 3 years ago or so. I got a large fountain drink, and I have a history of grabbing the drink from the top, like the lid and the top of the cup. And I was enjoying my drink. And then one of those times that I grabbed the drink, I started to lose control of it. But somehow, in trying to retain control of it, I like threw it in the opposite direction, and it went all over me and the guy in front of me.
What the hell? And like this is like a Texas like movie theater large soda. Like it's like what, like half a gallon of soda.
Probably.
And by trying to regain control, she says that this is exactly what happened is that she puts her two hands forward and goes straight up towards the other gentleman and just like throws the whole soda on top of him.
How the hell is that regaining control? That sounds like the opposite.
I don't know, but as a result, I no longer get the large drink.
Forever?
Yeah, I get the medium drink. They're like, no, the large drink is only a little bit more. I'm like, no, I can't have it. I must only get a medium or smaller.
Yeah,
Then the
flashbacks.
gentleman looks back at me like really upset, but he sees that I still have a good cup. And he looks at Ada, who has no drink anymore, and kind of just like shakes his head and just sits back down, watches the movie completely drenched in soda.
Well, he actually, I was also drenched, just FYI. There was so much liquid.
This is before the movie even started, so you just have to sit in it.
It was like 15 minutes in or so. And he moved to a different seat because the seat was soaked as well.
That's garbage. What the hell? So you're saying this kind of stuff happens to you regularly?
I did feel better though when I started law school. We had to go in person, and there was this guy that sat next to me at the dinner, and he dropped like 2 drinks towards me, and I'm like, what?
Like cocktails?
like a beer and wine, like at different times. And I'm like, hey, that's fine. Like I dropped a drink on someone. Like it's not that bad.
So then he was like, all right, she's cool with it?
Yeah.
2 drinks.
It's very common. This behavior started back in high school. I remember she dropped an entire Big Red on my desktop computer. And then now
I don't remember that.
And then now, like every time she comes over, she spills the soda on the couch, on the carpet. I'm like, God damn it again. I have to be checking. Like, no, you can't put sodas there. You're not allowed.
Why do you keep on inviting her then?
I have no idea.
I mean, I don't think they invite me to the.
Really? I'm like, there's a new IMAX. Like, fuck that. We're not inviting Ada. She's gonna start a fight. She's gonna spill an entire soda on someone. Wait, what? Was your daughter there too?
No. But she heard about the story, and she also monitors me, and she watches how I hold my cups. And if she sees me grabbing it from the top, she's like, no, you can't do that.
If she was there, she would have roasted you even more.
Yeah. She's a good roaster.
Yeah. She's a grill. Like George Foreman, rest in peace. So I am in the market for a new smartphone. I told myself that I would try and do like 3 years with the last smartphone that I got, which was the Google Pixel 7. We're nearing that time, and I feel like I'm ready to move on. But I'm just like curious where you all are with smartphones. I know Nathan has been running Android for a long time. Ada's been an iPhone user pretty much as long as there's been iPhones, right?
I think I got the iPhone 3.
What did you have before that? Just like a flip phone?
Yeah. I couldn't afford an iPhone until I got out of residency.
So how's the Apple experience been?
Everyone knows that I love it. I'm a Mac girl, an Apple girl for life.
Are you one of those people that gets angry at people who are on Android devices and your chat bubbles are not the right color?
No.
No? People do that. It's idiotic.
Didn't that stop already now?
With the RCS?
Yeah, with the RCS.
Well, the colors are still different.
I wouldn't know.
It ultimately doesn't matter. Nathan, have you just always had Android phones? Have you ever tried the iPhone or any other operating system?
I was on BlackBerry initially for a pretty long time, and then I tried, I think, the iPhone 4. I had the iPhone 4 for a while, and then I just decided I didn't really like it all that much, so I've been on Android since then.
So I've been trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm pretty certain I don't want to move to Apple. I don't want to move to iOS. I have a MacBook, which is infuriating to me at times. The whole macOS experience doesn't let me do a lot of the things that I would like to do as easily as I would like to do them. And I don't want to get tied into the ecosystem. I don't want to get trapped. And that's how people, that's how they get you. That's how they keep you inside that walled garden so that you can always just only buy Apple products, which gives you way less choice. But smartphone and general phone manufacturing in the US is kind of weird. There's not as huge a variety as there was before.
Yeah, that's true. You had a couple of brands that aren't even out here anymore, right?
Like what? Like Nokia,
No, I mean,
HTC.
there's a couple.
I remember probably the first smartphone I got was probably an early HTC Android, and I don't think I ever had a Samsung device, but I went between that. I did a spell on Windows Phone for a while, which I thought was pretty cool, but unfortunately it didn't last. And basically since the Google Pixel came out, I've only been using Google Pixels this entire time, but I think I'm ready to move on from Google.
Weren't you trying to move on to another phone and you had some fiasco happen?
Well, yes, ordered an Asus Zenfone 10 off of eBay. So part of the reason why I want this phone is because I don't understand why people need massive phones. Like, do y'all care about the phone screen being huge?
I am very upset that the phones have become so huge. I need a small phone for my small hands and also my small pockets.
I'm kind of in the middle. I don't want the really small phone, and I definitely don't want the larger variant. I'll stick with the one that's right in between.
I mean, do you know people who have those huge phones or why they want them? I mean, there's a reason why they've kind of become the main thing in the market. It's because people keep on buying the larger screens.
I don't know. I guess they want to use it as a tablet.
Well, a lot of people now like watch a lot of shows like on their lunch break and stuff. So I'm assuming if you're that type of person, you'd want the largest device.
What about like talking to people or having you time? Not spending time on YouTube, just like getting this giant screen as close to your face, just telling you every single conspiracy theory possible. We're addicted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people like. I mean, that's why I posted something. Well, I commented on a Bernie Sanders Joe Rogan post, and there are so many people defending Joe Rogan. I'm like, yeah, you guys just listen to Joe Rogan? Come on.
Just so that you can have that phone in front of you at all times. Anyway, the Asus Zenfone was kind of considered like the last bastion of small phones. They stopped making the Zenfone line in that form factor, which was smaller than the Pixel, slightly smaller than the Samsung Galaxy S25, but it turned out the antenna didn't work, and I sent it over to the support team over there, and they're like, no, we're gonna have to charge you like $500 some in order to change the main board on it. So I need to return that. It's just weird because all of these manufacturers, like, there used to be so many different choices that you can make when getting consumer electronics, but now it's pretty much just like Apple, Samsung, Google when it comes to these phones. And anyone else who's trying to make more premium flagship devices, they're not as available in the US. And a huge part of that, I think, is those weird carrier deals that have made or broken a lot of companies. Do you all buy unlocked phones, or do you buy them through like your carrier?
I had usually bought them unlocked, but when I got the Pixel 9, my carrier offered it for like $300 off on launch date. So I mean, I wasn't even looking for a new phone, but I couldn't pass it up for that price. But I mean, it was only locked for what, 90 days?
I just buy through the carrier or through apple.com.
But normally,
So it's not unlocked.
Normally, I've bought unlocked. But I mean, I don't know if I'll stay with Pixel. I mean, I've been pretty interested with some of the OnePlus offerings.
Yeah. A lot of people are calling the OnePlus 13 the best Android phone out there right now, both in terms of value and features.
Yeah, and then I did have another phone that I really liked, but it was the Essential phone. I don't know if you remember that one, but it fell off a water tower, so that was the end of
Fell
that.
off or you threw it?
It was thrown, but not.
You said, I knew it.
not I wasn't aware that it was in there in my backpack at the time
Why'd you throw the backpack though?
because it was really hard to climb up there with it, and I was just like, okay, like I'll just throw it back down. And I remember
Okay.
the employee I was working with at the time, he was like, take your phone. I was like, no, like I don't need it. Like I'm not gonna be able to hear anything you tell me up there, even if you call me. He's like, no, you need to take it. I was like, no, I don't. So like he kept insisting. I was like, fine, put it in the backpack. So like since I wasn't thinking about using the phone whatsoever, when I threw the backpack down, he was like, oh, something's smoking in here.
What?
Of course, it pierced the battery and the phone was shattered. I was so upset.
So you blamed the employee.
No, I was just like, oh, like, why did I mean, if I knew I didn't need the phone, like I shouldn't have been convinced regardless.
How high a drop is that from the water tower?
That water tower, I mean, I guess it fell at least like 80 feet.
In like a backpack full of tools and stuff, or what?
No, I had taken out quite a bit of my tools. I was trying to take just as little as possible because that climb was pretty exhausting as it is. So
80 feet straight up on the water tower.
yeah.
One of the things that was pretty striking about going to Europe for me is I noticed so many more different kinds of phones that people had. People have all this buy-in from all these different manufacturers, and a lot of those manufacturers are in Europe too. And also there's not the same firewall against Chinese phones. So a lot of people had like Oppo and Xiaomi and OnePlus and Sony phones. And meanwhile, we just get like a handful of options. And even if you do end up getting your hands on something like an Asus phone or a Sony phone, there's no telling which bands are going to be available or if your carrier will support Wi-Fi calling on it. It just sucks. You don't get that many options as a consumer.
I don't know what y'all do with y'all's devices, but I love my Apple life. I don't feel any need to have more capabilities. I don't feel trapped. I love how it all coexists. So for someone
but
like
how-
me, it's great.
How often do you get a new phone?
I don't know, whenever I break it by like stepping on it at the tennis court, things like that.
I don't know how you don't feel trapped. So my phone ended up cracking last week, like I told you guys. So I had to live a whole week with an iPhone, and man, I could not stand it. Like the second
What specifically though?
everything, just the user
Like you have to be
experience.
specific.
I mean, it's just not user friendly compared to the Android experience. Now the Android experience has got so good, it keeps evolving. I feel like iOS just knows what their base wants, and that's all they do. They don't really add too many things. So
Yeah, it's not really built for new users. It's intuitive for people who've already been in the Apple ecosystem for a long time.
Yeah.
So they're only ever catering to how they've trained their current users.
I don't know. It's great for me. Airdropping, do not disturb that goes across the entire ecosystem.
no, it's horrible. There were so many times where I would open a photo on an app because you want specifics, and then like I couldn't figure out how to get out of the photo. I had to be like swiping all these different ways, and it wouldn't come out. And finally, I was like, "Oh, okay, I got out of this." And it happened on more than one occasion, and with multiple
Well, that's
apps.
because you didn't know.
Yeah, but it's a smartphone. Like I don't have to do any of these things on my Android. Like if I just swipe out, it's already out. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but once you learn how to use it, like obviously you know what to do.
Nah, iPhone's like the yolk. It's trash.
Also, they're always adding things that make the ecosystem even better. Like, for example, they started doing something that mirrors your phone to the Mac, which is kind of cool sometimes. Like, if I don't want to have my phone with me and I want to just look at the Mac screen, let me go ahead and just mirror the phone. And if I need to do something on the phone, I can do it on my Mac.
Well, what would you do on your phone that you couldn't do on the Mac?
I don't know.
I feel like it's the same thing that's always happened. Android phones have had this type of capability forever. But if you talk to an iPhone user, Mac user, whatever, like, oh my God, this is so revolutionary. It's bullshit. We've already had this shit forever.
I've had like really hardcore Apple users say like, I bet your Android phone doesn't do that. I was like, my Android phone's been doing this shit for years.
Yep.
Well, it's user friendly once you get used to it for people who are not needing to do really intense things on their phones and computers.
It's not even intense things sometimes. Sometimes like the way that you want to, I don't know, just choose what notifications and quick options you have. Like when you pull down the notification shade.
Mm-hmm.
Also just like the way that every single person I know who has an iPhone, whenever they open their notifications, it's always like a gigantic, like rows and rows and rows of notifications. Like on Android, it's really easy to say like, oh, I don't want to see, like I know that I have text to read. Like I can just get rid of all of my texts. I can get rid of all of my LinkedIn. I can get rid of all of my ESPN notifications just from doing that, instead of just having this gigantic wall of notifications that never got addressed. Android also does this thing where if you go into the app that the notification was for, the notification goes away.
Yeah.
Sure. Right now, I'm actually swiping away the notifications, so you're a liar. We can swipe the notifications as well.
Yeah, but how many do you have on there? Scroll them.
Because I didn't.
No, show us.
I don't know.
Show us. Put it on the screen.
I hadn't swiped them before.
See, what the hell? Like, why would you?
But I hadn't even tried.
Keep going. You're still going. we need to tell the users when it stops. Okay, it finally stops.
Okay.
But you know, if you're on Discord, you get all these messages. Like you've gone into the Discord app since those messages have come on your phone, right?
Yes.
So then, why in the world would the notification stay there?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It doesn't bother me, sir. It's not even on there right now. I have to like swipe to get the notifications.
I did notice that also. I was like, I already read all these messages, and like if I didn't clear them though, the notifications were still on the lock screen, like forever.
Yeah, nothing's on the screen right now. See? I have to like swipe to get the notification.
Yeah, like the phone still has like a missed call from like 3 days ago on the notifications. Like I talked to that person, and I met with them already.
I have 153 missed calls on my phone. Also, 108,000 emails that I haven't opened.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Hey, I am very much a hoarder of my emails, and it ends up coming in handy. Like I can look up things like what happened in 2012. When did I go on that trip? Where did I go? And I'll be like, oh, here's the itinerary from 2012.
Yeah, but you just like have an unread email from that time. Like, oh, I forgot to respond to this person 13 years ago.
It would have been life-changing. What?
Misconnections. I don't know. Some of the Apple stuff is absurd. Like when iOS finally added widgets, I'm like, Android's had widgets since nearly the beginning.
Yeah. The other thing I found really annoying is when I had it, so I have like 3 smartwatches, and like none of them would have worked with iOS either. I hate that.
Yeah.
Like you're the same thing. They want you to be locked to the Apple Watch.
What do you mean they don't work?
Like I could have used the Pixel 3, but I had to get some merge app, and even then the functionality was going to be limited compared to what I get on Android.
Yeah, because that's not really getting security updates anymore. It's such an old device at this point.
Well, I don't really know what you're doing, but it works well with Garmin.
What's an old device?
The Pixel 3.
Oh, my Pixel 3 watch.
Oh, the watch. Yeah, they lock behind a lot of stuff, and it's for everything in their ecosystem. If you just like say if you really like the AirPods, they're not going to work as well on an Android phone. You can use them, but they won't work as well. Whereas like I don't know, like your options are so much greater for Bluetooth headsets or other kinds of headsets on Android because you don't feel like you're locked into the system. I mean, you've used the Bose ones before, right? But on Android, like you don't think about that. I could use Bose, I could do Sony, I could do Jabra, I could do any of these, and it's not a big deal because you're not in the ecosystem. You get
Apple
more
for
choice
life.
across all of your products. And Nathan can speak to this too with the different smartwatches. Like, you can actually get smartwatches that look different instead of just like the same design that all of the Apple Watches have.
Yeah, but they're...
I can pretty much bet that I will be Apple until the day I die.
I mean, I'm sure at some point they're going to mess up and then people will move on. It happens.
They would have to go bankrupt.
I keep on hearing that Siri sucks.
I don't really use Siri.
Yeah, because it sucks.
What about the Vision Pro though?
Oh yeah.
When was the last time you used it?
I was gonna watch the Metallica concert that was specifically for Vision Pro, and then still haven't done it.
So then that time we were in the hot tub when you said you were going to start using it, actually
Yeah, it
it
hasn't
was
happened
a
yet.
lie, as usual.
I have so many things going on. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, first of all, I don't understand how I add more things and have time for them. It's like, well, what was I doing before? Like, how do I have law school? Like, I'm having all these meetings about a potential congressional campaign, like work. So I don't know.
I think the answer is that you don't have time.
Well, I'm finding time to do more things.
I think the answer is that she's not actually organized because like all her notifications and appointments are hidden behind all the messages she already read.
What the hell? I will say, like, if I do decide to move on from the Pixel, there are a couple of the Pixel features that I will miss. I think mainly the call screening is a big one. I don't know how robust that kind of feature is across other devices. I don't know. I want a smaller phone. I want a small phone that does it, because I feel like if you want a small phone nowadays, it has to be like a cheapo phone. I want a small phone that's like cool and interesting. Phones used to be fun.
Do you remember when it was actually cool to have the smallest phone?
Yeah. The Palm Pre, had the BlackBerry Pearl. The BlackBerry Pearl was super cool. No, I'm very interested in that Motorola Razr Plus.
The flip phone? Or it's a
Yeah. It's one of the flip phones. Even though Samsung has a more mature flip smartphone at this point, its cover screen still doesn't let you do everything. Like the Motorola actually lets you use the cover screen as your phone. And if you need more real estate, then you can open it up.
Yeah, or you can get a fold.
Sorry, this conversation is
Fuck
very
that.
boring for me because I already found my soulmate in Apple.
Terrible.
You've closed your mind off to the exciting possibilities of what could be.
I mean, it can't get better. This is the love of my life right here.
No need to remarry.
Exactly.
Have my iPhone.
Yep.
Well, maybe Apple will also come up with a folding clamshell type phone. I think that's something that a lot of people would be really interested in. I heard somewhere that Samsung Z Flip series is actually one of the most popular phones among women because of its compact size and like smaller pockets.
Sounds like something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds like something
It has to be
Jared would
Apple
need to look
for me.
into
Because he always uses the small pockets.
because he wears women's pants.
But isn't Jared more of an Apple person?
I
I
don't
think he
really.
has an iPhone.
I don't really know that he's married to Apple forever though, because he's had other phones.
So you're saying that he's willing to cheat on Apple?
He's been on iPhone for a while now. Like, when did he switch over? Didn't he have a Pixel at some point?
I don't know.
'Cause I know he had like a Mac Mini for a while, but he seems interested in like building a PC now. But he has the Apple Watch. He has the iPhone. Maybe he's irredeemable. Maybe he'll never get out. When I was talking offline about this whole phone thing, you were suggesting phones. I was like, I don't want that phone. It's fucking massive.
What, the nothing
It's
phone?
huge. The Nothing phone is huge.
I don't like the folding phones though, because I saw someone on a plane that was watching a movie on it. It was so gross how it had that folded line. Like,
It looks worse when it's off axis. If you're looking at it straight on, you barely even notice it.
I don't want to notice it at all.
Well,
Until it gets to that point, then I will not have an interest.
The hinge technology has advanced significantly.
What has not advanced is our responses to the mailbag.
Yeah, Ada's been dragging her feet.
Me?
Yeah,
What?
you're the one who has said that you didn't want to talk about it yet. Nathan and I have been ready to go.
Well, we're ready today, and we're going to take this mailbag question.
All right, we have a mailbag question from Leo in Harlingen, Texas. And the question is, do social programs create dependency in people? Justin will answer the entire question.
The entire question?
I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Well, it's entirely context dependent, right? Like the social programs might be a universal basic income. It might be Social Security. It might be universal health care. I don't know in what situation you say, oh, universal health care causes dependency. Like, having universal healthcare makes people more self-sufficient because that's one fewer thing to worry about every day.
So I want to start off by saying that it's very hard to research these type of topics because when you research these topics, you find think tank websites.
Yeah.
And then you have to investigate who started the think tank because it won't be clear just from the name that it's a conservative think tank or even that it's a
or a liberal one.
think tank.
Yeah. Do our listeners know what a think tank is?
I don't know. Do you want to explain it?
A think tank is usually a series of scholars, some people who have been involved in politics for a while, who try to find ways to communicate policies that they want. Sometimes that involves doing research. Sometimes that involves doing research so they get an answer that they want. I once dated someone whose father was involved with a think tank, and his whole thing was about welfare doesn't make people's lives better. And those what all of his articles were about.
Which think tank was that, or can we not share that?
It was AEI.
So this actually goes back to the episode when we talked about that documentary, The Brainwashing of My Dad. They brought up how this is part of the Republican strategy to start these think tanks and try to push the narrative in their way. And so the Heritage Foundation and other think tanks, they don't make it clear that they're conservative, but they have a very conservative message and goal, right? And so I'd look at stuff and I'm like, wait a minute, this is from a conservative think tank. And then when I found a liberal think tank, it would have a different answer. I'm like, well, I don't know what the answer is then, as far as whether or not it creates dependency.
So you have no actual opinion because you're just talking about think tanks at this point. I think the listener who submitted this question wants to know what we think about this situation, not what a think tank thinks about it.
Well, no, I wanted to get some data. I think it's important to get data if you can to determine whether or not there's dependency. But it was hard to even find the data.
How would you even define dependency in this situation?
So I guess what people tell me is their definition is people who are just not working and getting free money, free healthcare, free benefits, and they have no incentive to work because they can just continue on this and continue getting free money and free housing.
So it's about not working.
Yes.
Well, what I found is actually counter to that. It's talking about people that do not have the economic pressure to work once they get welfare. Not that they don't want to work, but their self-reliance isn't as strong as it used to be because there's a safety net there. And then that brings you to another thing that people talk about, which is the benefits cliff. So let's say your income at a certain point qualifies you for benefits. Let's say you get $1,000 a month of benefits. And then your employer says, you know what, I'm going to give you a raise. And you now make $500 more a month. But that pushes you over the threshold and you lose your entire benefits package. In the situations like that, that's what I think people are talking about, is where you create dependency because why would you want to raise when you're actually going to be worse off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a problem with the system at that point. Because you're going to make your life worse by hitting that benefits cliff.
Yeah, and I think at that point, I mean, the welfare programs should start to look at okay, well, they need to, if we're going to take away this much money and they're going to be worse off, they need to get over that amount before we can take them off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense. You're going to be worse off. Why would you work any harder?
So then it doesn't sound like most of these people are lazy people that are just trying to get free things. It sounds like they make a calculation, and especially when we have a lot of jobs that don't pay well, that don't pay a living wage.
Texas.
Yeah. Then sometimes you have to make a calculation that you should work less, maybe. Or I guess in some situations, maybe not work for a bit.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, too, sometimes these benefits are not just the financial assistance. Let's say you go over that threshold and you lose your health care.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's a very easy decision to make. I don't want this raise because I'm not going to be able to afford health care. Or if their kids are going to lose health care too, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and for some of these people, it might be life or death. What if the person's diabetic? There's so many people in South Texas that are diabetic.
Mm-hmm. Have chronic heart conditions.
Yeah. Diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol are huge down here. A lot of people who end up with amputations kidney damage, dialysis. So it might be life or death, that healthcare for you. The healthcare isn't such a big deal when you're like a young, healthy person, but there are a lot of people who are not healthy.
Yeah. This keeps coming back to the fact that this is a problem with the system. It's not a moral shortcoming to want these benefits, especially when you know that the next step up is going to completely remove them from you and it's life or death. And it's literally life or death for a lot of these people, right? I mean, do you think that Social Security creates completely useless people? No. A lot of people on Social Security are still working.
Correct.
And I think the people just have resentment because we have a weird situation where some people are able to get free health care and then other people are having to pay like $800 every 2 weeks. So then they get upset, like, how come I can't get affordable health care and other people are getting free health care?
I think it's the think tanks. They've somehow put it into people's brains that the problem with that is the welfare people. It's those people who are taking your tax dollars and not letting you have good health care. Like, no, motherfucker. The problem is all these health insurance companies and these private insurance companies that make you pay more and more and more for less and less and less coverage.
Yeah.
And of
Well, not just that. We also have corporate factors because corporations are taking over practices now.
Yeah.
Private equity.
Well, the other thing is also they've made people believe that all the people on welfare are not trying to work. They're all lazy and they're just trying to scam the system instead of paying attention to the actual people that are scamming the system, which is the people that they should actually be worried about. And so when some of the stuff I was reading too, they're like, oh, well, there's some controversy about this, but they also think that welfare provides incentives for some of these unwed mothers to continue having children just to increase their benefits. I mean, if you look at it that way, and that's the only thing you ever hear, of course you're mad about welfare. You're like, this person is just out there having kid after kid after kid and getting all these benefits, and you're struggling because you're trying to do it the right way. So it's just the way they frame the message. It just pisses people off.
But would that same mother who is having a lot of kids, would she be on welfare if she could get affordable childcare and could get a really good job with a living wage?
I don't think so, but I think when they put these examples out, they're trying to say it's a bad person, essentially, that has no intention of ever working.
Also, a lot of people on Medicaid are actually older people, like people who are on Medicare, Social Security, and they're low income enough to where there's a Medicaid supplement.
So what do you think is the solution? And do you actually think it does create at least some dependency?
I mean, there are so many things that are needed for the solution.
Right. So
Like-
I feel the question's like a little bit loaded. Do we feel that we cannot and should not depend on our government for anything?
I think that we should get some help from the government.
And we pay our taxes.
It's like a symbiotic relationship. And so I believe that if we pay into it, we should get a decent quality of life. And every person should have an opportunity for affordable health care and to get a Pell Grant if they need it for school, or to get a federal subsidized loan if they need it for school and things like that. Or if you hit a bad spot, like, you know, what if no fault of your own, you lose your job and all of a sudden you need a little help to get through till you find your next one.
I've been on unemployment. I've been on Medicaid. I know plenty of people who are on Medicaid and welfare. They work a lot. They're trying to work. Wages continue to be low. Standards of living have to be lowered for a lot of these people in order to survive.
Yeah, I think most people are not just like hanging out and being lazy and just taking money from the government. I think most people are trying their best, and, you know, sometimes they need a little help.
Yeah. I don't know if this was a situation when our parents were still married, but, you know, when they were divorced, like with mom, we grew up on food stamps. We were on welfare. We were on CHIP.
Yeah.
We had health insurance. We could go to the clinic when I had horrible food poisoning. We could have died from losing all my fluids.
Yeah.
There wasn't that last gasp, like, oh, I don't know if we can go to the hospital. Like, let's let it get worse. If it gets better, then we won't go. But let's hope that it doesn't get worse. And then you have these people go to the emergency room with something that they should have come in way earlier for.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
and she worked.
She worked.
She pretty much
Yeah.
got a job almost right away and started working. And she decided to get a job where she had the summers off so that she didn't have to worry about
With the school district.
like child care over the summer. And our family members have had like environmental issues that have led to them not having college degrees. So that's the reason why she couldn't get like a super well paying job.
Mm-hmm.
But she was working.
I
She was
see.
working a full-time job.
Well, I do remember definitely when we were growing up that they did have food stamps when they were still married. That was back when the food stamps were actually these little, they would look like actual like money.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have them, but I don't remember going to the doctor too many times. But I also remember like maybe going to the dentist when I was really young, and that was about it. So I don't know if they had any type of health insurance for us at that point, but I don't remember us having to go very often. And I don't know if that was just because we didn't have too many problems or the fact that we just maybe didn't have insurance.
Well, I know we got WIC also, which is like helpful for buying things like milk and some products like that. I don't think we had insurance because we would go to Mexico when we'd get sick most of the time. I remember being like laid out after vomiting a lot and being in the back of the car and going to Mexico. Then coming back with some type of pink liquid or whatever the Mexican doctor gave us.
I think that solves the mystery then. I think we did not have insurance.
I mean, why would we be going to Mexico if we did?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because I don't remember that, but
Maybe your immune system was better.
yeah.
Or maybe they gave less of a fuck about you. Or they're like, Nathan will be fine. It's like, please, Father, I'm dying. All right, think about like, what's the reality for someone in South Texas where chances are maybe they didn't go to college, they didn't have any higher education, they didn't have a chance to go to trade school. I mean, even some people who do kind of spend a little bit of time in trade school, like they might still make minimum wage out of it, working for someone else. You have to get around in a car, so you have to get a car. You have to deal with all of its maintenance, registration, gas, repairs, any number of things. You're probably paying off a loan that might be extremely predatory too. You have all of these expenses and you're still getting minimum wage that was set decades ago.
Yeah.
It's a paradox too, because the less money you have, like, you also get these bad loans.
Yeah.
You're not going to get like a huge credit card
Yeah.
limit with low interest rates.
You buy a used car that probably has a ton of problems that you're going to need to
Yeah.
take in and out of the shop.
Yeah, but that problem's going to continue to persist here because there's still people that want to pay that low wage. And like you said, like that minimum wage has been there forever. And we're seeing now that the cost of rent continues to go up. Cost of gas is way higher than it was when that minimum wage was set.
And then like what happens if that person can't afford food? What happens if that person can't afford medical care? Say if you are working in an industry, like say you're someone who works in loading groceries at the back of HEB off of a truck. You hurt your back. You hurt your knee or something. What happens if you don't have health insurance? What happens if you
Or are they
can't
working-
get yourself to a doctor?
Are they working for HEB or they're just like somebody dropping off? Because HEB has pretty good benefits from what I've heard.
Okay, fine. Let's say somewhere else.
Some store that doesn't have benefits.
The Michoacana.
They actually have the best benefits, sir. And they ship you to Mex.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Or like someone who works at Stripes. Like maybe they got like burned on the Laredo Taco Company grill or whatever. Like
Uh-huh.
you're working in conditions, and we've already kind of gone over this too. That sometimes these service jobs, fast food especially, can be super grueling. A lot of the time, it can be heavy on your heart. It can be heavy on your body. What happens to that person? They're working so many hours at minimum wage.
Yeah.
And they still have, yeah.
Maybe Nathan knows a little bit. Like, are you required to have workman's comp for every employee?
We have it, and yes, it's supposed to cover the employees I have.
So it is required for any job that's not a 1099 job?
Actually, it was not required for me to carry it. It was required for the reason we carry it is because I did have some cities require that I carried if I was going to be able to get some of the contracts, but we kept it since then. So it's not required here.
Damn.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah. You work for a contractor who doesn't have a workman's comp policy.
Well, that's the thing that people don't get, right? So, yes, you're going to have some expense to the businesses if you increase the minimum wage. And yes, it'll probably be a little inflationary, but you're not thinking about all the other effects that are going to be positive on individual people and on the whole community. So if you have a living wage for people, then you'll have people that are able to work more, are maybe able to pay for their own health insurance, maybe pay for their own food. And so maybe if you have a living wage, there's less need for entitlements or whatever you want to call them, these benefits. And then also, like, you end up having just a more healthy population, right? People that are less stressed, people that are able to get the healthcare they need, and their mental health also could improve, which would also decrease healthcare resources, expenditures.
When you pay the minimum wage, some of these people have a hard time finding a job, and let's say they don't live in the city the employer does, and how Justin's saying, like, oh, they probably have like a used car, it's not fuel efficient. So some of these people end up coming all the way over here, working 40 hours, and let's say a quarter of your check just goes to the fuel that it takes you to get to the job and back each day. And then there's the other thing, like, what about lunch? I mean, I'm not struggling I could eat out every day if I wanted to, but some of these like fast food lunches now have got to like $18 or $19.
Jesus.
If you're making a minimum wage, I mean, that's like, could be more than 2 hours of work for you. When people cry about people that are on welfare, I mean, you kind of got to understand, like, they can't even afford like little luxuries luxuries that we thought when we were growing up, like, oh, it was like going to McDonald's was like a treat. But I mean, are you really going to go to McDonald's if the combo costs like $13 or $14?
Yeah.
And you're making, was it $7.25 still?
No way. And then, like, what do you do? Like, you pack a lunch, but then you're only eating like super processed foods if you're not on food stamps, you know?
That's if you even pack a lunch, because I mean, I'm sure some people feel like embarrassed that they can't even afford to go eat with the rest of their crew or coworkers, like whoever they're with. Like, oh, well, because then everybody knows, like, oh, well, that guy can't afford to do anything.
Sometimes those social pressures are real. A couple of years ago, when Becca was still a student and I was in like the beginning of my freelancing, pretty much, we qualified for a pilot program. We were selected to have a guaranteed basic income of $500 a month for 2 years. That wasn't like a life-changing amount of money. That didn't mean you could, you know, like move into like a swankier apartment or start eating out more, but it just meant that there was less stress. We could focus more of our time and energy on the things that we were doing, you know, going to school, studying, working on more projects, eating better, because it's not like, well, like, here's what we can make with a can of tuna and a box of pasta.
So just $500 a month basically improved your physical and mental health.
Yeah, for a lot of people that are like at the poverty line, that's very helpful. So, I mean, I think to answer this, or to answer Leo's question, I think it does create dependency just depending on the situation. I don't think it does it to everybody. It just depends on your situation. I think we talked about where if you're going to lose, you're going to end up having less money, losing your health insurance. Maybe you will want to stay dependent. Beyond that, I mean, I don't think these people choose to be dependent if they could really get out of that situation easily.
When most people are probably working, but working low-income jobs. And then there's also the systemic issues that are leading to people being in this situation or choosing the situation.
Yeah.
A little bit of this also plays into education. So I think we need to start, especially down here, where, I mean, if you know there's not a lot of high-paying jobs yet, to start teaching the kids in high school about managing their money, building their credit, things that can help you survive. Because I remember, I mean, I didn't know any of that stuff. And even when I was making like minimum wage, like I'd spend like my whole check on like stupid things.
Yeah. Well, that's also like coming out of poverty too. It's not that like, if you live in poverty, you know how to do any of that. You don't know how to invest in your retirement fund. You don't know how to save money in the same way. You don't know not to completely bomb your credit score.
I think it was interesting when y'all mentioned the social pressures and going to these restaurants during the workday. I remember growing up, we couldn't really afford going to restaurants very often. And so then when I had a credit card and I was on my own and I had the ability to go to restaurants, I ate a lot of bad stuff. And that made me gain a lot of weight.
And that's where the trash can was born.
No, the trash can was born in high school. But I definitely felt like I had all this pent up like desire to eat at McDonald's and like other restaurants. And yeah, it wasn't good for my body. I got over it now though.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's not wrong to be dependent on something. You know, I feel like that's a very individualistic idea. I think especially when it comes to things like creating communities and having community-based thinking, you know, we depend on each other. We depend on our families. We depend on our friends. So it's not like a catch-all evil thing or a catch-all bad word. We can be dependent on the people that mean the most to us. So we depend on you to listen to this podcast and tell your friends about it. Keep on spreading the word. We've been a little bit slower with the cadence. A lot of us have been having some trouble getting together. Our schedules are a little bit weird right now. But we promise to keep on plugging forward, giving you new episodes, and talking about what you want to hear. Keep on sending stuff to the mailbag at casadecavasuspod@gmail.com if you want to hear about really intense things or just about like, yeah, Ada, why are you on an iPhone? There are way better options out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like all the times that I fall down or drop drinks.
Yeah, if you want a pod that's just about all the times that Ada has fallen down, leave a comment, rate us 5 stars on all the platforms, and we might just be able to do that.
Falling in the pool.
Yep. All right, that's it for us.
Until next time.
See you later.